Okay, we're going to do a passage from book 1 and then my decoding observation map. Okay, so first, what is the passage that we're going to be looking into? But when you begin to notice the voice, you begin to change your relationship with it. It's talking about the subconscious buckets. You stop assuming it's right. You stop believing every thought. You begin to question. You begin to breathe. The breath itself becomes a key. Each inhale returns you to presence. Each exhale releases a little more of what you were never meant to carry forever. This is how healing happens. Not in a perfect leap toward light, but in thousands of small, honest choices to come back to your center. Page 30. Okay, let's decode this. How do you come back to your center and not listen to any voices that are trying to convince you that you are still your past self? So box 1, we have source code. What's the source code running here in terms of internal dialogue? High Priestess in reverse. You always knew that that voice that was trying to convince you that you were less was not true. You just are having time spent now to reconcile what you always knew to be true. What's the source code? The source code is that you knew you were never meant to play it small. You knew you were never meant to view yourself as less than or incapable or even less capable. You knew it all along, but there's a need to reconcile the amount of time that you tried to convince yourself to believe it, or you subconsciously believed it, or you unintentionally believed it, or you gave it too much weight. Thought loop. What is the thought loop here? The Tower with the Knight of Swords. The thought loop is, how do you battle against it when it just won't stop? You try to reprogram, the same voices come back. You try to restructure or redefine the neural pathways, voices from the past keep popping up. That's not a sign you're doing anything wrong. That just means you need to keep going. Thought pops up, give your brain a new one. Oh, there's no point in trying that. I'll just fail anyway. I have proof in the past of me succeeding against odds that were stacked against me. I have the proof. You just need to give yourself the permission to believe it and act on it. So you have the proof. Something at some point in your life has worked out. Something that you thought was going to go bad didn't go as bad or even went good. That's all the proof you need to reestablish that pattern again. You have the proof, give yourself the permission. We have shadow process. What's the shadow process here? 5 of Cups in reverse and Judgment. Healing your internal dialogue, healing your self-judgment. Nobody else can see the thoughts that are happening in your brain besides God and you, right? So you can allow your internal dialogue to run unchecked and straight up bully you, and nobody would ever know. You are the one who's responsible for saying, you know what? Those voices don't seem in alignment with my growth. I'm not going to blame or shame myself for them. I'm simply going to program in a better thought that's more in alignment with me right now. Reality glitch. What's the reality glitch? 8 of Pentacles, Wheel of Fortune is the reality glitch. You're far more capable than you gave yourself credit for. Deep down, you know that, but now you need to act on it to see it. And the 9 of Cups. You've learned from survival mode. You need to trust that there's also things you can learn from a season of thriving, to where God's not just trying to punish you by keeping you in survival mode. There's also lessons that can only be learned in seasons of thriving, and those lessons are meant to belong to you as well. Death in reverse, a rebirth. Energy reset. So to upgrade, how do you do an energy reset? Taking back your power, the Emperor in reverse and the Sun. Boldly and unapologetically taking back your power. That doesn't mean exerting that power over other people, but it means exerting that power over your own choices, over your own internal dialogue, and not letting it run unchecked. Yeah, the Fool in reverse, not letting it run unchecked. Pattern broadcast. So what pattern is this projecting into your reality, essentially? What pattern is being broadcast? Not speaking your mind to keep the peace, not showing your boldest, most authentic, most full, unapologetic self to keep the peace. Pattern being broadcast, I would say the pattern being broadcast is dimming yourself to keep the peace. And my question to that would be, whose peace were you keeping? Because not yours. Not yours. Interface field. What's the interface field? You were running on a system in which your mind was the burden. Others projected onto you, or maybe even you believed because of what you endured, that your mind was the burden. So needing to put to rest the idea that your mind is an uncontrollable burden and start to believe that it can actually work to benefit you, so long as you come into an understanding of what it's trying to do for you and not just viewing it as working against you. Because remember, in survival mode, your brain wasn't trying to keep you happy, it was trying to keep you alive. Survival. Delete cache. What needs to be deleted from the system for all of this to happen? A belief about your worth. What needs to be deleted is the belief that your emotions will always be viewed as a weakness. The belief that just because others used your empathy against you in the past doesn't mean that you need to continue to stay in survival mode to protect yourself, because now you have the wisdom to accompany the empathy that will show you where the boundaries of safety lie when it comes to that very empathy. All of this was to bring you back into the trust that was always there. You just needed to prove to yourself that you could depend on it. The trust between you and yourself. Good job.